Line 1, Silas in Seattle.
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
Hello.
Good. How are you?
We are well.
This is my first time talking on a show, so I'm kind of nervous.
That's okay.
Not to worry. We're
Nice people.
Yeah, we won't hate you. The audience
yes.
might. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we'll screw the audience.
yeah.
Exactly. That's what I always
No, they're
say.
the people who write us our amazing letters.
No,
so.
the hell with them.
Yeah. Screw all you guys.
So,
What's up?
So I'm wondering. I mean, I'm agnostic. I don't entirely not believe in God, but I don't really believe in God either. But my question is, and this is kind of a legitimate concern of mine, is: do you think America is vulnerable to becoming a theocracy? Do you think that that there are people that are actively working to put more biblical standards in a court of law?
To that second question, yes and duh.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because I noticed that you guys said that you're the part of the purpose of the show is to keep religion separate from state. But like this TV, but and that's great. But I feel like we kind of need a stronger force against that than just a TV show. I feel like more and more people who actually have power are just all about let's actively make everybody share our faith.
Well, that's been the case for hundreds of years. Well, thousands of years, really. But it's within the last few decades, I think that atheists have started making more inroads into politics. I mean, as recently as sometime in the 2000s, the Freedom from Religion Foundation did a survey to find out if there were any elected members of Congress who were openly atheist, because they didn't know at the time. And they only found out when Representative Pete Stark answered the survey and said, yeah, I'm an atheist, and that, and he certainly didn't run on that, and he left office not that long afterwards. But since then, a number of new people have been openly running for Congress, like both the House and Senate, as atheists, and they're not necessarily winning, but like Bernie Sanders came out as an atheist, again, just as he was leaving. Thanks, Bernie.
We have almost no Democratic candidates for this election. They're all Republican, and they're all at the same standpoint, as far as I'm aware. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
well, I mean, the only reason we don't have a ton of Democratic candidates is because nobody really wants to go up against Hillary Clinton for now. I'm not saying that as an endorsement, good or bad. I'm just saying that's the way it is. There are people who could run against her, but they aren't.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, what you asked is not a yes or no question. Like, it's not a binary state where you flip a switch and, in one state it's perfect, godless, utopia, and in the other state it's suddenly Iran. There are greater or lesser degrees of religious encroachment on government. And some people in some parties would really be much more enthusiastic about strongly pushing sectarian laws. And it's important to fight those as they come up.
Right. I mean, I kind of always had this fantasy of America's like just on the verge of becoming this violent theocracy, and it depends on a huge debate, so we hire Matt from the show as our debate assassin.
Yeah, that sounds like a good movie and an unlikely real life scenario.
Right. Well, I mean, just if you read back on, and I think that it's not just Christianity either. I mean, I think anytime you have a government where they try to enforce a belief system, whether it be Christianity, I mean, normally from what I've seen, it's been religion, Islam or Christianity. But anytime you have a system of government where they try to enforce a belief system, there's been empires or emperors in Rome who wanted to make everybody an atheist, and if you believed in God, you could be legally punished, right? There was nothing that you couldn't mention God, you couldn't have anything
I'm
religious.
not sure
and
that Rome is the right example, but I mean, I certainly do not support.
Yeah, because especially
anybody.
after Constantine.
Yeah.
Right.
But I know the idea is what is. We have to understand just sort of what the laws are in our country, what our Constitution says, and then you have to pay attention to the way in which the people who are theocratically minded, and there are there are a great many of them, and they're well funded, and they're very, very active. It pays to understand that they're operating from this sense of religious fervor, and one problem is that too many people on the other side don't have that same fervor. And I think that what we saw, for example, in the last midterm elections, when you had this Republican sweep, and then everyone was like, "Oh God, what? How did this?" It was I think a great deal of apathy. I saw an editorial cartoon that essentially kind of summed it all up, where you have, I guess, like the stereotypical conservative Christian Republican raving about how he'll crawl over hot coals in order to, get to the polls to prevent, and to keep America good and godly and Christian and what have you. And then standing next to him was the stereotypical Democrat who is, I guess, this kind of college chick going, "Oh, voting? Can I do it on Twitter? This sort of weird indifference, or this not the same level of passionate engagement." And you have to understand the passionate engagement of those who are theocratically minded.
So you said passionate. You said passionate engagement, right? Mm-hmm. So that we have people that are passionate about their beliefs. So anytime you have someone in office, whatever their belief system, it's going to be part of who they are. So anytime they try to make a law, it's somehow going to be tied to their belief system, right? So what I don't understand is why are people so? I don't
know that necessarily follows. I mean, somebody who is, for example, pushing a certain traffic law isn't necessarily thinking about there is such a thing as just governing for the purpose of doing what government is supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the case that just because you do believe in God, as 85% of Americans explicitly do, doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to base the laws on the promotion of your specific religion. I think that good and effective legislators who are religious recognize that to some degree.
But what you see on the campaign trail is very much, they hit those specific emotional hot button issues to appeal to, folks who like to call themselves value voters, right? Values voters.
To pander to the crowd.
Yeah, and so when someone's campaigning, it's never about, let's get better city sanitation and traffic lights. It's always about, abortion rights and LGBT marriage and things like that. Stuff that really gets the base, all heated up and hot under the collar. So when you see those particular candidates, taking that approach, those are the people to sort of keep an eye on and watch and observe to see. Yeah. And then notice when they do get into office and when they get into the position of actually trying to write bills and things, they do understand what the Constitution has to say about no, we're not a theocracy, and so they come up with language that sort of gets around it. So instead of these laws being the oppressive things that they really are, laws that are designed to discriminate against folks who don't share their belief system, they reframe them as religious freedom laws. So the whole idea, being required to allow gay and lesbian customers to come into my business is an infringement on my freedom. That's how they reframe these sorts of things. So to try to make them seem,
they make it look one way, but it's really another way.
Precisely, yeah. Right. So these are the kind of rhetorical tricks that and it works with their base, right? I mean, the base just kind of swallows it up because they are looking for these justifications to violate what they know the Constitution makes abundantly clear. That church and state are separate things. We are
so not they're being clever. They're being clever.
Yeah. Well, I think they're being clever, but they're being dead obvious. But they're but it's a real approach that they're really taking, and it needs real solutions to combat it effectively.
See, that's my concern, is that they don't realize it, but they are more or less, what they're electing is something that is reframed as religious freedom, but behind it really is going to turn out to be oppression, right?
Yeah. Well, in specific
yes,
cases, like in
atheists do.
specifically in the examples that I listed. Yeah.
That's because I remember I was watching one of Matt's debates.
In the same way that
with,
you're trying to get creationism and evolution together in science classes, where clearly the creationism doesn't belong, but the bills are framed as as freedom of educational
Right.
freedom.
Yeah, bills
and-
have very Orwellian names.
Yes.
It's
But we can keep
Exactly.
them
Very
moving.
good. You
something
spelled
like
it
right to work means
right to
you
get
know,
paid less
right.
and,
That's fine.
and
right to get fired at will.
Right. Well, that's
right
fine.
to have absolutely no protections.
Anyway, I think we're probably going to move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hopefully that addressed.
Thanks for
All right,
calling.
thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Appreciate the call. Good question.
Yeah, you too. Bye.